أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربي أنتقنا بالهدى وألهمنا التقوى. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. I begin in the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. It's due to that kindness and mercy that He gives us these opportunities where we gather to learn more about Him, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I have turned off the video just so that the internet connection and the bandwidth stays strong and that the PowerPoint screen comes a little bit larger. So the course that we're going to be participating in this week and next week, inshallah, aims to prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a really important discussion and subject, and I think these are things that we need to remind ourselves of as often as possible. If there are any issues with sounds or anything, please do send a chat message, and inshallah we will look into that. So before we get into the actual proving the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as such, there are a few questions that need to be, or a couple of questions that need to be answered. So the first discussion is that why do we need to prove the existence of God in the first place? The material for this discussion, this week and next week, are taken primarily from three sources, and as we quote the authors and the ulama of these courses, you'll see the titles of the book, or we'll mention them once again. But the three books that we're quoting are from Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi in the 50 principles or 50 lessons in the principles of belief, then God and His attributes by Sayyid Mujtaba Lari, followed by theological instructions of Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi. So we're going to be using all three of these resources to get the answers that we want. So the first question that we ask is that why do we need to prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or God? The first answer that our ulama give is that it is part of our fitrah, or part of our innate nature or intrinsic nature, to want to become aware of reality. And we call this curiosity, basically, right? That we are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be curious. We see this curiosity in children. I often find that when we look at children, before they have been influenced by various factors, you see within them the intrinsic qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with, and curiosity is one of them. Children want to know why. Children want to know answers to these questions. And we see this even in regular life, right? So for example, if you find a person who's in a coma, this is an example given by Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi, that when that person is in a coma, and when they wake up, they want to know realities. They want to know what happened. They want to know what they missed, how long they were out. This curiosity is very natural. Now, as we mature and as we get older, and especially when we are faced with different hardships, that curiosity that we have takes another form altogether. Where we begin to ask ourselves certain questions about what is the purpose of all of this? Why am I going through such difficulties? Or when we look at the world around us today, we see wars and famine and poverty. questions come to mind that what is the purpose of all of this? Is there someone who's in charge? If this person is in charge, then why don't they do something about these? These are curiosity questions that are innate within us. We are programmed to be curious. And so one of the main reasons of why we want to prove the existence of God is because there is this burning curiosity that we have within us. For us as believers, this is a vital step to our maturity of Iman, where there is this notion sometimes that the fact that I am a Muslim or I'm a believer, that I have already reached the end line, when really just the fact that I'm a believer puts me at the starting line, and now I have to move forward. And the way we move forward is by being confident and firm and solid in our beliefs. And so curiosity is one of the main reasons why we want to, or we need to, study about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second reason given by our ulama as far as why we need to prove the existence of God is to thank the provider. Shukr al-Mun'im, as it is known. Again, this is maybe an offshoot off of the fitrah or the curiosity. But in life, when someone does something for us, if we get a surprise gift, we want to know who it is so that we can thank them. When someone does something nice for us, we want to thank them. In life, we're constantly blessed. There are times when I could have gotten into an accident and something stopped me or something saved me. There's this curiosity or this desire to thank the source of that saving, basically. And this is known as shukr al-mun'im. And of course, as believers, this desire to want to thank the provider would mean that I want to get closer to Allah, get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better so that I can thank Him appropriately. The third reason why we want to prove the existence of God would be to defend your beliefs or debate with others. And to be quite frank, this is not important. We don't study about theology so that we can debate about theology with others. There are specialists for that. We study about existence of God, and we study about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we can get closer to God, basically. That would be the main reason why. But generally, as far as why we need to study the existence of God, these are the reasons given by our ulama, and the first one is the most apt, I believe. So the second question, before we get into how to prove the existence of God, are what are the benefits of having faith and what are the benefits of knowing God? So the first thing our ulama say is that it brings about a sense of peace and hope, especially when one is faced with difficulty, knowing that there is a God, or knowing that there was or there is a purpose behind why I'm going through everything. It reduces anxiety and it reduces worries. It brings about a sense of calmness within us, especially when one, for example, suffers, knowing that you will be paid for in full for your patience during that suffering brings about ease in dealing with all those difficulties. So it helps. When you think about it from a very material perspective, the reason why people have a lot of anxiety at times is because they rely on the material only, and when the material doesn't come through for them, they have nothing else to rely on, and so it creates within them anxiety and restlessness. While we realize that the material has been put here for us so that we can get closer to God, so when the material fails, we don't panic, because we know God is there and He'll replace it with something else to get closer to Him. So it brings about a sense of peace and hope. And inshallah, by understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a bit more clearly and a bit more better over the course of these next 2 weeks, we will feel that sense of hope and peace within us. Another reason why there is benefit in studying or knowing God is that it creates within human beings a sense of responsibility, where knowing that there is going to be accountability for our actions causes mankind to become less selfish and more selfless. So I realize that I am a peg within an entire system of pegs in this world, and that my actions actually have an effect on everybody else. And so there is a sense of responsibility that it brings within me, especially knowing that there is going to be accountability in the hereafter. And according to Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi in the 50 Lessons of Principles of Belief for Youth, that knowing God actually helps with the progress of science. He says the world of creation is like a great book in which every creature forms a word or sentence in that. From the point of view of a person who worships God, every atom of this universe is worthy of study. And therefore, when I have faith, I want to know more about my Creator, and so I will study and try to get closer to my Creator in that line. And we see that translated in different ways too, right? So, for example, if someone's creator is materialism, then the aim of materialism will drive them to work hard as well. So we see this in different manifestations or different ways. But for us as believers, everything around me shows the signs of God, and so I want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So having understood these two questions, which serve as preliminary discussions